Hello, my name is Zoe Faden, and today I'll be presenting my final project, Never Giving Up in The Martian, which is a novel written by Andy Weir in 2011 and a film that was directed by Ridley Scott in 2015. The Martian is a near-future sci-fi story that follows Mark Watney, an astronaut, engineer, botanist, and the only man to have ever been abandoned on Mars. He is abandoned after an abort mission from NASA. He is a scientist that works as an astronaut on Mars, and they're hit by a storm that ends up with their mission being canceled and NASA sending them home. During the storm, they go to the spaceship, which is tipping, and so in this moment of panic, they're trying to problem solve, and Mark is hit by flying debris, resulting in his suit puncturing and his vitals reading as him being dead, leading to his team leaving him on the planet and taking off without him. Hours later, he wakes up, very much not dead, and realizing that he has no communications with NASA or his crew, seeing as that the storm knocked out all the communication capabilities. And he only has enough food to last him a little less than a year, which is very problematic, seeing as that the next spaceship to land on Mars in this story will be in about 4 years. Everywhere Mark goes, he's the first, which is why I have this quote. He's the first person to be left on Mars, and he's the first person who has to solve these problems. So there's no fail-safes in place to help him out. And so everything he does, he has to problem solve for. This being said, with this premise, I believe that the theme of both the film and the novel that was very well executed and effective in the film was never give up. Throughout the novel, Mark Watney never gives up. He immediately starts working. The moment he figures out what has happened to him, he's tending to his wounds. He's making sure that the habitat, the HQ is all fixed up, that his machinery is all fixed up, that he can have oxygen, that he can have water, that he can have food. When he figures out that he's not going to have enough food, he starts rationing. He starts growing potatoes from the vacuum-sealed sack that he finds in the house. He starts making water from burning hydrogen and oxygen together. He is using his resourcefulness to keep pushing forward, and if he doesn't do that, he dies. So this theme of never giving up is not only important just in general, but is important to his very livelihood. And it is a common theme among the entire story, as he's not the only one who isn't giving up. NASA, his crew, and then all the people on Earth are also in heavy support of him once they find out what's happened to him. And so they're also never giving up on him and working towards his survival and him coming home. The first scene that I analyzed in terms of this theme was the storm. This is a scene that's around halfway through the novel. It's told in the third person that depicts the entire crew as they deal with the prior events to the storm and the storm itself. In the beginning of the novel, Watney briefly mentions the storm, but since it's first person and he's the one who was hit, he doesn't remember it very well. So the scene in the middle of the novel is much more effective in depicting the events. However, what the filmmakers did was put it at the beginning so that we as the viewers get all the information right at the start, which I found was very effective, as it showed what all the characters did to try and help Watney the moment that they realized he was missing. The film used diegetic sounds of warning alerts, the equipment in the wind, the storm, and the voice effects of the crew as they're talking over comms to make the scene very realistic, to make us really believe that these people are on Mars. The film used the habitat, and the surroundings of Mars, which were either desert landscape that was heavily color graded or CGI landscape, to further depict that kind of landscape, to make us feel like these people are actually there, and to make us feel that danger, to feel that fear that these people are in danger as they traverse from the habitat to the spaceship. So during the scene, the warning alerts, the equipment, the storm, all those sounds are used to build up that sense of fear that accumulates towards Mark Watney getting hit with that debris and flying off into the storm, not to be found. And so all that kind of those kind of choices that the filmmakers made to kind of hone in on that kind of panic that the crew was feeling for him really was effective in showing how they were never giving up. As the danger persists, his commander continues to keep looking for him, and his crew continues to support her in this. And then when it seems like it's too late, their pilot pulls out a maneuver that ends up helping the spaceship stop from tipping. As it's tipping, he uses the rockets to push it back up, and that allows their commander to have a little bit of extra time to go and look for Watney before she ultimately boards the spaceship, and they depart without him, assuming him dead. So this willingness to not only not give up on Watney, but also not give up on each other and support each other despite the horrible situation that's going on, really set the tone for the rest of the film on how these people were very, very dedicated to each other and survival. The second scene that I'd like to talk about was actually spread across many chapters throughout the book. It switched from first person to third person as both Mark Watney and NASA worked towards communicating through the Pathfinder probe. Mark Watney finds this probe. He works towards finding it in order to make contact with NASA. It's the only way that he can think of that he would be able to, as it was merely abandoned. It's not broken, but he has to travel to find it. He has to work to make sure that it's all running and that there's no repairs that need to happen. He has to make sure the solar panels are working. He has to put in so much work to make sure that this machine will work for him and that he can communicate with NASA. And NASA's doing the same thing. They've since discovered that he's alive. They're tracking him on satellites, even though they can't communicate with him directly. And they're doing the same thing. They're finding their old probes in their warehouses. They're booting them up. They're making sure they're all running and all good so that they can make contact with Watney. And this is well represented in the film, as there's many close-cut shots between the Pathfinder being repaired on Mars and the Pathfinder being repaired on Earth with NASA, and it contrasts with this kind of red and blue lighting between the different scenes, so we know who's doing what with each machine before they're booted up. And there's that moment where we wait for that message to be sent for the first time. It takes about half an hour for a message to send from Mars to Earth and vice versa, so Watney has to wait an entire hour, NASA has to wait an entire hour to know that their communication methods have worked. So it really adds on to that moment of celebration. It adds on to that tension that leads up to that celebration, knowing that because neither side gave up, because they kept working, they reached success and they were able to make that communication. Some further things that I thought the film gained as far as what they chose to do and as far as supporting this theme of never giving up, the disco music that Commander Lewis leaves behind and that Mark Watney has to listen to, as it's the only music he has access to while he's working. I felt that it was a consistent comedic symbol that really helped boost the morale. So while people were working, both on Earth and with Watney on Mars, I felt that it was very consistent in kind of keeping that morale up, even though it was not his favorite kind of music. It was a little silly comedic thing, and it kept the mood of the scenes lighthearted. And so it made those kind of scenes very hopeful for when the people that were involved with them were working towards that end goal of getting Mark home alive. And it helped with connecting scenes through the flow of scenes, as the director chose to make the music both diegetic and then non-diegetic. Mark Watney would start playing the music as diegetic music, and then it would become non-diegetic as the scenes cut to the crew on the spaceship or NASA on Earth or people just watching the stories. So I felt that they did a really good job with using that both as a symbol of hope and as a storytelling device. Any changes that I would make would be very slim. I wouldn't make very much changes. I thought that they were very effective in their filmmaking. I think it would be nice to have more scenes with people on Earth. There was a very funny scene in the novel where a postman discussed in an interview how they had made commemorative stamps for Mark Watney that they had to recall once they found out that he was alive. And I felt that it was just such a silly problem, and it really brought a lot of levity and kind of highlighted how different those kinds of issues were, but also connected the average person as a whole to Mark Watney's issue and what he, like the effect that he had on Earth. So I felt that it kind of provided both that contrast and that kind of humor and connection for people. And it provided that knowledge that the people on Earth aren't giving up on him either. They're recalling these stamps. They're sure that he's going to make it home alive. They're not gaining money from this. And still they're like, no, he's alive. We're going to honor that. He's going to make it home. We believe in him. So I thought that was just a really nice moment that I was a little sad was left out of the novel. Other than that, my take on the novel was that it was very well written, and I thought that the film was a very effective representation of the novel, and that in both the film and the novel, the theme of never giving up was very well represented. It's the only science fiction book that I've ever liked because of the way that we use that kind of language and that kind of comedy to explain rocket science. I thought it was very well written, and because of how accurate and how close the adaptation was, despite being an intermediate adaptation of the novel, the dialogue that was taken was very representative of what Weir had written, so it was very accurate to the things that he had said. And it made it a very enjoyable experience to watch and read. Also, both in the book and the film, diversity. I felt that the presence of many different groups of people, especially women, in NASA was a very nice thing to see. It wasn't a big plot point in either story or either version of the story. It was just a little detail that was there, was that there was people there who didn't all look the same. Nobody was exactly the same. And having a lot of women, having a lot of people from different backgrounds there helping out and making this end goal possible was really inspiring, because it provided that kind of like, these people aren't there because someone said you had to meet this quota, and these people have to be there. They're there doing the work. They're there actually helping and providing information and work that will reach that end goal. So I felt that it wasn't a very forced diversity, and I really enjoyed it, and it gave that book a kind of like refreshing feel, especially for when it was written. And then my last point was the ending. I really enjoyed the ending. It was different from the novel. In the novel, the book ends when Mark is rescued. In the film, it ends with him teaching a college class of people who are my age, who are looking to be astronauts. And it was very interesting to see, because not only is it representative of that theme, never giving up, he lectures to these kids like, are you going to sit there or are you going to start problem solving? And I felt that it was very a nice way to end the film, not only to represent this theme, but also those are the people that I've been told, like, my generation is going to be the one traveling to Mars. So seeing people who look like me sitting around in this college classroom getting lectured on how to survive Mars, with life lessons that really can work in any situation, is something that I never thought that I'd be able to connect to. So I really enjoyed it as the ending of the film. And that's it. So thank you so much. If you're interested in any of Andy Weir's books other than The Martian, if you've already read it, already watched the movie, if you don't plan to, I would totally recommend it. I would also recommend Hail Mary, which is another book by Weir, and it's going to be made into a film in this upcoming year. So totally recommend that, and thank you so much for watching my presentation.